everything else versus Bitcoin essentially gets spent and dies.
I want to be able to have reactive security. And I think OpVault is today the most straightforward, easiest to use way to do that.
I will not be insulted by a clockmaker.
Overall, these kind of ways to make the network easier to both build on and interact with, I think is a really big deal.
If Bitcoin existed when we started Twitter, we would not have to go down the ad model path. I mean, as simple as that.
Integrating Lightning into a social network is the killer app.
Hello, and welcome to the Bitcoin.review podcast, where we explore developments and projects with the people who actually make them happen. The show is supported by Pod 2.0, Sat Streaming, and CoinKite. If you're a new listener, I'm NVK. I run CoinKite, where we've been helping people secure their Bitcoins for over a decade. We make the cold card and fun products like the block clock. You can find more information about it on coinkite.com. Hello, and welcome back to the Bitcoin.review podcast, where we are going to talk a lot about Lightning because clearly the Bitcoin software is not being updated. While the Lightning software needs to be upgraded because it doesn't work. Just kidding. It's great. So the quote of the day is great. It's my favorite, one of my favorites. Hardware, the part of the computer that you get to kick. Jeff Bezos.
That's a good one.
So today I have with me returning Mr. Rijndael.
Hello, good to be back.
Mr. Ben, welcome back.
Good to be back as well.
And Roy.
Hey.
So, housekeeping. OpenSats long-term support for Will Clark. And then Unleashed.chat, my other LLM project, now is open for people to use. And you can pay with sats for generation. Charge per minute. So there you go. I have two keywords for VCs, AI and Lightning.
And I think I just saw that you don't need an email address anymore. Is that right?
So I removed that requirement.
Cool.
So we actually need people to go there and use it because, this is not meant to be another chat bot thing. We're trying to figure out what this is for. So you can upload documents privately, actually. So you can do stuff without us seeing too much. It's not fully segregated yet, but it's all stored in your browser and stuff, not on our servers. And we're going to have an API soon in Nostr Notes DB vectorized. So it's actually more powerful than it seems, but it's not quite there yet. So I'm just very curious how people use this shit because we want to go into weird places with this. And there's two models there. One is fully uncensored, well, mostly uncensored. The other one is uncensored-ish. And there'll be more models. And we're going to put them all in a way that you can maybe have them all in the same chat, talking to each other. That's going to be fun. So check that out. All right. So vulnerability disclosures. So there was this very interesting one. This could be a scammer. So I'm not sort of putting Ledger at fault here yet, but it's hard to tell one. So lost my BTC after Ledger update, and apparently it's I think a change bug. It went to some other address. The change. It's a very strange one. For the life of me, I can't sort of figure out. I've asked on Twitter. People have some interesting ideas, maybe a cosmic bit flip. And there's been a few sort of very randos responding, saying they had the same issue. But again, right, very hard to know if it's not just some scammer trying to score sort of bullshit points against companies. But anyways, have you guys seen this one?
Not really. I mean, I think I saw a tweet about it. I'm looking at the Reddit post where the person posted about it. And when you were describing it, the first thing that came to mind is, I had to run down a really bad bug one time with generating addresses outside of the gap limit, which is a problem that you can run into with wallets, where your wallet is only fetching its first 20 script pub keys from an Electrum server or something. And if you send money to the 30th address, then it won't show up in your wallet balance. And you still have the money. You just need to generate enough addresses to get kind of past that one, and then you'll see it. So my first thought was maybe it was something like that, or maybe it sent it to a change address on the wrong derivation path. But there's a comment in here from the person who posted saying that they tried generating like 1 billion addresses and it's not any of those. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what the conclusion of this is.
Yeah, I mean, it says he sent twice, once with coin control, once without, and they both got an error. So I wonder if like it just signed some bad transaction and then money's gone. Like, I'm surprised he didn't like post a TX ID of like,
yeah,
here's the I mean, maybe he's not technical enough to figure that out, but like here's the transaction ID where it went.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Like, it's a tricky one because people don't want to dox their coins, but at the same time, I mean, like if you're gonna make a claim this size,
yeah,
maybe do post the transaction ID so we can all take a peek. Don't post your private keys, please. Anyways, like it's a strange one. This one could also be like a bug, right? Like it's maybe like it hit some like edge case or something. There's all this shitcoin control shit too going on this product. So, anyways, I'm super curious because if there is a problem with cosmic bit flipping or something else, I want to know because I want to make sure my users don't run into the same problem, right?
What was the use case that led to the issue? Did he broadcast a transaction and then upgrade it? Like, what was the flow exactly? I haven't followed.
So he upgraded his firmware and then he sent some amount of a specific UTXO with coin control, but then tried to send his transaction and got an error on the front end and decided to send BTC with regular way, whatever that means, without specifying UTXO, and the same problem happened again. So like maybe this is like Ledger Live related. Anyways, it's strange.
In the comments, he posted one of the addresses. It's weird. You're like, exactly half of Bitcoin went to one address, and then like 27 Bitcoin, like 0.33 whatever, went out somewhere else. So like the weird, like there's a round number in here, and like it seems like that's not what he was trying to send. So maybe it is a bug.
Yeah, right. Like there is something that doesn't add up.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't like it's like a classic sort of like scammer because like dude like like with Bitcoin products, I mean like we all get like 50,000 messages a day of like I lost my coins, give me my money back, and it's all bullshit, right? Like
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But this one specifically sort of like piqued my interest because it has a different vibe to it, even though it's unclear. So I'm curious to see what Ledger releases in terms of official response or something. All right. So next, attacker managed to steal almost 56 Bitcoin while paying 83 Bitcoin as a fee. So no, this is like a classic thing, right? Like attackers will always overpay the fees with whatever UTXO they can. That's the oldest there, so that they get the money. They don't care, right?
Yeah, I'm super happy to spend all of your money. Like that's fine.
That's right? Like they would just pick whichever oldest UTXO you have, biggest, and just send it as the fee, right?
Blast it. Yeah.
Boom. So anyway, the signature. So apparently, signature checks out. Apparently, controls the keys. So this is a real story. It's not bullshit. It's not like an accident. I think I saw somewhere. I don't want to get this wrong, but it seems like Nifty knows the person or something, or knows of the person. I think she vouched somewhere too. And I haven't sort of like looked super deep into this, but it seems that the wallet generated bad entropy. This person didn't throw enough dice or an insecure RNG. Yeah, I mean, like, so this is interesting because, see, like, it is my belief that state actors now, especially like, North Korea, things like places like that, have like very high quality rainbow tables now. So they'll go out there, they'll crunch Bitcoin entropy, and they're getting high, right? Like, not high enough that we have to care for good entropy, but they're getting high for bad entropy. So, like they're probably like in their 70 bits, 80 bits kind of level nowadays,
Or it's like, a couple of years ago, Debian was shipping a bad, what was it, like OpenSSL, like by default or something. And so like everybody's, SSL keys got
BX wallet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it could also be something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's groups out there that all that they do every day is look for flaw in libraries that do key generation that may not be full bad entropy, right? Maybe it's even 256 bits. It's just that they happen to have a poor version of 256 bits, like that will be sort of reproducible.
Yeah, I mean, I've also seen like a recent resurgence in a lot of brain wallet memes. Like a lot of people are building tooling for, hey, come up with your own song lyric or something, and we'll hash it and use that for entropy. And like that stuff got wrecked years ago. I remember there was a talk at DEF CON in like, I don't know, 2014 or something, where a guy went and swept a whole ton of brain wallets because humans are really, really bad at entropy. So, it could also be something like that.
Yeah, it's like a mix, right? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're never going to know, right? That's the fun part of entropy attacks, right? Like, it's like they don't even know which wallet you use, maybe, unless you're doing a directed attack of a specific way in which you did entropy. But, this guy is like, they're crunching the stuff, and they'll have the stables, and then they'll have servers that all that they do is watch addresses in many derivation paths on servers until they find something, and then they sweep it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the other possibility, right, is like if you're talking about state actors, parallel construction is something that's like really funny to think about, where it's like they could have some other capability that they're never going to talk about, and they're very happy to let people think that they just have giant rainbow tables.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like, remember Silk Road? We definitely didn't have an SSL like bug, right? We just we parachuted inside this library and we held his hands.
It was the security camera inside the library, right? Like that's what it was.
Right. That's right. Exactly. So, it's unlikely we're ever going to know, but we are seeing more of these because there is more money to be stolen, right? I mean, and Bitcoin is worth more, and it's, worth the GPU, the time, or whatever it is. So, like, big lesson here is like, please be careful. Don't generate your own entropy unless you have like aid, right? Like you have a device that's telling you how many dice you threw or how many cards you did. Don't over-invent things. Don't invent your own entropy algorithms. You're going to probably suck at it. Use libsac to generate those keys. What else you guys have in terms of like sort of like very practical advice to people? Because I don't know, like it seems like people don't want to hear like this kind of stuff about entropy. It's like, oh, look, I have this cool Linux laptop, right? That, I removed the video card. Sorry, I removed the Wi-Fi card. And, now it's great for me to do my stuff, right? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I repeat the shit every show almost. So, like, what do you guys think?
I always tell people, like, you're not more clever than, like, Peter Wolla or any of these, like, cryptographers. Like, just do, like, the best practices that is, like, industry standard. Stop, like, trying to come up with your own thing. Like, it's not going to work. Like, even if it does work, like, most likely it won't, and it's not worth trying.
Well, I mean, it's like the classic, I think I said it last time I was here, like Schneier's law is anybody can come up with a security system that they themselves cannot defeat.
That's right.
Right. So like, just because like you've figured out the way that you want to put BIP39 words into a hat and draw them out, like you might not actually understand how much or how little entropy is in that system. So just like go with the best practices. Like if the best practices were vulnerable, then there'd be a lot more Bitcoin stolen, right? Like anytime you hear about one of these things happening, it's always somebody who got, too clever by half.
Yeah. And go ahead, Roy.
No, I had nothing to add. Like, if you want to be stupid, be stupid. Like, and when it comes to security, you need to keep things stupid, right? Like, you need to keep things simple and stupid as much as possible. And if you don't do that, you're stupid. So,
well, and like I know that multi-sig is complicated, but if you're holding like real money for whatever real means, multi-sig can be great because it's a way that you can have non-correlated entropy sources like contribute to the security of your stack, right? So even if one of your keys gets compromised, you don't lose the entire stack. but that's like a whole other rabbit hole.
It is. And you know, like, it's going to get better too, right? Like, I mean, multisig just needs to get better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess like the part that pisses me off more is that, like, you know, we do have a very reasonable way for people to do this stuff already, right? Like, I mean, just, you know, even like a lower grade of the main hardware wallets is already good enough. Like, it's not like, just don't do the fucking laptop shit. You know, like, especially if you're a very smart person.
Exactly.
Because you're exactly the person who's going to fuck something up because you're going to do it custom.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like,
yeah.
It's not going to be cubes that's going to prevent you from fucking your own self. It's brutal, man. It's absolutely brutal. And it's going to keep on happening and happening and happening, right? All right. So next story here. BLUFFS attack lets attackers hijack Bluetooth connections. Oh, boy. So I'm not going to get into the weeds here on how this works. But, man, this is brutal. So essentially, like, they figure out a way of man-in-the-middling Bluetooth of the latest version, right? So 4.2 and also 5.4.
Yeah, and it looks like they actually are able to crack the session keys.
Yes.
Which is really bad.
No, it's like, you know, and it's a rolling key too, right? So like they fully managed to break it.
That's amazing.
And so they can man in the middle and they can also inject their own stuff. So essentially, like, now you think you're having a quiet conversation on your Apple headphones? Probably not. If you think your hardware wallet is talking to the app, maybe not. And Bluetooth, man, it's like 50, it's like spec is 50 meters. Okay, it's more like 100.
Yeah.
If you have good antennas on the other end, right? You can probably do way more than that. So, man, long range radio is not good for Bitcoin wallets. Don't do it. This is really, 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 really bad. I'm surprised that the story has not sort of like gotten like even more attention.
I mean, that's one of the things that's so cool about like NFC for Bitcoin wallet or Bitcoin hardware instead, right? Is the range is a lot shorter. It's much lower power. Like, you can still have a giant antenna and get better range, but you know, it's like orders of magnitude shorter than Bluetooth.
Yeah, and like, just look at the list of the affected chipsets. It's like all of them.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. I don't know, like, I just love when stuff like this comes out, like, because I feel like we're early still. So people, you know, if people get like fully owned, they can still like stack again. So like, it's nice to bring this up. And the toolkit is on GitHub. So if you want to go listen to your spouse's calls over Bluetooth, go check it out. But thankfully, I speak so loud that my wife can probably hear me from the other side of the house, so she does not need to listen to this. So next. All right. So wallets of Satoshi and Nodeless.io have been shut down. The wallet of Satoshi shut down. I don't know if they got a letter or not. I don't believe it's been preemptive. I don't think you cut off your main market without being told. And by the way, sometimes when the regulators send you a letter saying you have to sort of shut down or go to jail, they also may say, and you're not allowed to talk about it until we go through court, or your lawyers tell you don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have a feeling they didn't get a letter because they didn't publish like a schedule where they're gonna stop the service completely. Like what happened, they just pulled off the US store. They didn't kind of block the American IPs yet. I think if they would have received a letter, they would say, okay, we're going to shut down the service by April or something like that. And they didn't do that yet.
Well, I mean, it depends, right? If they don't intend to go to America, I mean, like, they could just sort of say, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. Okay, we're going to close it down. But, you know, we're still going to take a little while to sort of like, you know, sort this out.
Yeah, but they didn't say that as well. They didn't say they're going to shut down the service.
Right.
My feeling is that they're talking to lawyers, of course. They saw what happened with Binance. They saw what happened like with other exchanges. They do, and some lawyer said like, guys, you're taking too much risk.
You're gonna go to jail.
Yeah.
In the States, and you need to do something about it. And they did something about it. That's my kind of intuition, but I don't really know.
Well, I mean, you can't really escape the tentacles of America financial regulators, right? Like, I mean, like, I think probably like the way that Tether gets away with it is because they're the biggest buyer of treasuries. Like, they are in fact the CBDC. Like, by definition.
Well, we can talk about the Tether. I think there's a U.S. interest to keep Tether the way that Tether operates right now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. They're the buyer of treasuries and the distributor of those treasuries. Like, it's just perfect, right?
Exactly.
It's the only way you don't go to jail at that size. Anyway, so, this is going to keep on happening, right? Don't use fully custodial wallets unless you really don't have weight, right? Like, I mean, listen, you want to onboard your grandma and she doesn't care about like, her KYC. It's not great, but you know what? So be it. There is more light KYC custodial wallets coming to the market too. Some people, normies, sometimes that's how they want to buy, some sats to zap, and it's going to happen. But I feel like we should push people towards the non-custodial ones or partially non-custodial. I'm sure, Roy, you have a opinion or two about this topic.
I'm against pushing people anywhere. Like, I think people will get to where they need to be. I don't like pushing people to non-custodial, to be honest. I think eventually we'll all have to use non-custodial wallets, so we'll win in any case. But I don't like kind of educating people and pushing people towards non-custodial. I think Wallet of Satoshi was great, and I think he's done great service for Lightning, like with Lightning education.
Oh no, absolutely.
Why Lightning is good, and now people have a choice. Like, they can either use KYC custodial services, or they can use non-custodial. So it's their choice. I don't want to tell users you need to use non-custodial wallets. I don't want to do that.
I don't mind. I like telling people, like, yes, custodial has its place, but like, please, like, move to non-custodial. Ben.
I mean, for us, this at Mutiny, this was great. It was our biggest day ever when they got shut down. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, I mean, I think that the sad thing is everyone's just kind of moving to Alby now, which is like, kind of WAS 2.0, which is like, the same thing's going to happen again in like a year or two, probably. And it's like, people need to actually like take self-custody to prevent this. But
the biggest problem that I have is this, right? And this is not for the zapping or for like the low amount stuff, right? When I was building the payment stuff for Unleashed.chat, I'm trying to build businesses, right, that do stuff and want to accept Lightning, right? I don't want to do the KYC shit because I don't have the time. And also the KYC shit for Bitcoin is more retarded than banking KYC, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I can get an account faster with less information on Stripe than like, try to accept like Lightning with like a real professional outfit to accept Lightning. They want more. They want my picture ID on the webcam. I'm like, fuck that. No. And also then you have to like manage Lightning, which is an absolute pain in the ass, right? Like, managing a node that's just like inbound is very hard. For little amounts, it's not too unreasonable. But like, for our store where the average invoice is like, say, $500, like, it's like, I can't, like, I literally cannot find a solution.
Well, and like, it's very different managing a node where it's like your personal use, and you're going to like, when you're going to be receiving payments, roughly how big they're going to be. You can like manage that versus doing it for a service where you don't know what load is going to look like. You don't know when demand is going to come, and it needs to be reliable, because if you don't accept the payment, like you lose a customer, right? Like, that's insanely hard.
I think we need more wildcats, really. Like, we need more people out there trying to do custodial Lightning, like, without doing the KYC. And it's just like this infinite like cat and mouse game. We're just gonna have to be changing providers as it goes along.
I'm hoping Fediment enables that, because it's basically just like you deploy the simple backend and it just does all of that for you, and kind of enables that. So like, everyone can be their own wallet Satoshi kind of thing. And then the Federation lets you distribute it across jurisdictions, so it's a lot harder to shut down than something like, just email.
But then on the non-custodial-ish side, like, with like Breez Phoenix that manages like, like your LSP stuff, and Mutiny not quite there, but kind of going like you guys are kind of all in the same kind of space, but all sort of not. Like it's hard to explain to people like without getting into the weeds on how like where you guys are different. But conceptually speaking, you guys all sort of like exist in this non-custodial space that may take custody for some of you where when you are receiving. Maybe Roy, like do you want to explain like where Breez is non-custodial and how it works, and maybe like even touch on Phoenix if you want to, and then Ben does Mutiny.
Sure, right. And I think in Mutiny and Zeus, I think everyone is working in the same model right now. The model is pretty simple. You have a client-side application that runs a node. When you receive funds, there's an entity called an LSP, a Lightning Service Provider. Very similarly to the way ISP works, an internet service provider, you're connected to the LSP. You can connect to one LSP, you can connect to multiple LSP, you can choose an LSP in some configuration. But once you're connected to an LSP, when you receive funds, the LSP intercepts the payment. If that's the first payment you've received, the LSP intercepts the payment, opens a channel to the end user node, and pushes the amount to the end user end of the channel. And it creates channel on the fly, and typically it deducts a certain fee from the amount received because there's a cost associated with opening a new channel.
Sorry, I just mean to interrupt just that part because I don't want to do it later. Wouldn't the lawyer say that there is like a very brief moment there that you are custodial or like would be considered custodial?
Okay, so the way, at least at Breez, the way that you technically, let's separate two discussions. Okay, from a technical standpoint, there is an option for the LSP to double spend the funds until there's a confirmation on the chain. Now, from a regulatory standpoint, is it custodial? I claim it's not custodial because it's very similar to a counterparty risk when you give a merchant your fund in order to receive some kind of product and they don't deliver the product, right? There's a delay in receiving the product. Either you buy in an e-commerce site, so it takes time for the product for you to receive the product, or even if you give when you go to a shop and you give cash, there is a delay. There is a moment in time where you surrender your funds and you don't receive the product yet.
Yeah, for 5 minutes you have like a sandwich credit, but you don't have a sandwich yet, right?
Yep.
And I think that's falls from a regulatory standpoint. I think that falls into a counterparty risk more than a custodian because there's always a counterparty risk when you make a transaction. And in this case, the transaction is actually buying a channel. You're buying a Lightning channel. So you give funds in order to buy a fully operating Lightning channel. That's the way that we perceive that.
Fair enough.
But technically, let's kind of switch gears to
continue
to the technical. From a technical standpoint, it's not custodian because the LSP in practice we don't take custody over user funds, but it doesn't mean there's no trust. There is trust because you trust the LSP not to double spend your funds.
Fair enough. Ben?
I mean, Mutiny is the same way. Like, basically the way we do it is like when a payment's coming inbound, like the Voltage LSP hits it, and then they can only claim the payment unless they pay Mutiny's original invoice. So, like, they have the same payment hash across the two, like the LSP invoice and the user's invoice. So that way they can't claim the funds. And then, yeah, like Roy said, everything's running client side. So, it's fully self-custodial in that regard. Like, if Mutiny the company disappeared, everything still should work. But yeah.
Okay. Do you guys have some insight on Phoenix? I can't remember. I know they do things a little different.
Phoenix is slightly different now with splicing because they actually use a dual funding mechanism where the funds goes directly to the channel. So the user funds the channel, and it's still a zero conf channel, meaning there's still trust involved, but technically they're not creating a channel and pushing the amount. They're creating a dual funded channel where every party puts some funds into the channel.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. Yeah, Lightning is very simple. But it is amazing though. Like, I mean, the only other way I could have done the Unleashed pay per second would have been with like credit card and credits.
Yes.
With Lightning, because I need the unit to be small, and I need the unit to be small and fungible small, right? Like it makes it like it's super cool, right? People don't actually have to deposit like real money like to be worth the transaction. Like they can deposit cents if they want to, right? I find that to be like like we're getting somewhere. This is like actually like indispensable.
One comment about like there's some FUD about non-custodial. Non-custodial is difficult. Non-custodial Lightning is hard. We had thousands of users, Wallet of Satoshi users flocking in over the weekend to Breez, and I don't really want this user. We'll talk about it later. Why? Because we're still running the Breez app is still based on our LND model, and it's the user experience is less seamless than the new Breez that we're developing. But never mind. But still, like thousands of users, like your typical middle of the spectrum users, switch to Breez. I'm guessing switch to Mutiny, switch to Zeus, switch to Phoenix. And we didn't receive any, like I didn't have one support case during the weekend.
Now that's always the it's also small money, right? Like, I mean, most people in a lot Wallet Satoshi, I imagine, have like, $20 worth of Bitcoin.
In Wallet of Satoshi specifically, you can hold up to 5 BTC in Wallet of Satoshi. So
no, that I know. The max, yes,
but we see users with and that's a problem, by the way. We have a 4 million Satoshi limit in Breez because we kind of try to educate people not to hold too much funds in Lightning.
Right.
I agree with you. You don't need to hold too much funds in Lightning.
Oh, I mean, I've tried to move 6 mil sats from I think was Albi to Phoenix, and I was bumping to fee issues on the receiving end. So I was telling T-Bass to like make the default inbound fee higher because the error message is not telling me what's going on. So like, the classic like Lightning problems, right? Like it's very easy to bump into edge cases and like sort of edge cases in UX as well, because this is all kind of like new and we're all figuring out. And the use cases change, like the Lightning needs a lot, right? Like trying to zap is one thing. Trying to like do small payments, another thing. Trying to be like mid-sized payments, another thing. So for example, like in my case, like can I just use a Lightning URL to receive funds from customers on Unleashed, on Breez, for example, or Mutiny?
You need a backend? No, because a mobile you don't need a mobile wallet. You need a server application that receive the funds on your behalf.
Yeah. See, I don't want to do that. I don't want to own payments.
Yes, I know. Yeah. So if you don't want to own payments, you have an option to use something like Voltage, which is a great solution. You can set up your node in the cloud and set up even a BTC pay server instance as part of the Voltage setup, but it still required some setup.
Here's an interesting thing that we end up doing.
Okay.
So we were using Nodeless. That's why I know you went down. And so now what we're doing is like essentially using Coinos and then just withdrawing to like a different wallet, right? Like
but still it's temporary. So until Coinos will shut down.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know it's going to be cat and mouse.
In your shoes, I think I would have proposed two options. One option is to do the self-hosted way. If you want to make your life easier, use Voltage with a BTC pay server instance as part of Voltage, or go to KYC route and do something like OpenNode. I think that's your options.
Oh, Voltage, you don't need KYC?
No, it's your instance, so you don't need to KYC anyone.
Okay, so this space is changing so much.
If you do like a BTC pay server with like the with like an LSP, you're still going to have to manage like going and buying new inbound capacity when your inbound gets low, right?
Yeah, but Voltage can help you automate that.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That's interesting. Can they do large payments too?
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. I'll try to look more into that.
Sorry, Rijndael, I cut you off there.
Oh, no, I was going to ask what you ended up doing for payments, since you didn't want to own payments and you didn't want to have to give, all of your retinal scans for KYC.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to give my D pick to the government or to other companies anymore. Like, I'm kind of like done with that.
At least not to receive Lightning. It's got to be worth it.
No, exactly, right? No, I'm perfectly fine. Like, like when we do like big things and we have to interface with fiat world, we send corporate documents and we have the lawyers to do that kind of shit.
Sure.
What annoys me is like when you go to a website nowadays, it's a startup and they don't want to deal with like proper ways of inbounding corps. They want your webcam picture.
Right.
It's like the worst of all the worlds.
Well, it's actually worse than that, right? It's like somebody made a SaaS offering,
yes,
which is, here's 3 lines of JavaScript, and we will hassle your customers for their dick pics.
That's right.
And everybody's just integrating with them.
Exactly. And there's another service that helps you manage the multiple KYC services that you use.
Exactly.
Yes. It's like it's like literally hell. Like, so like I don't want to. I refuse. She refused. So yeah. Moving on, I guess, to Bitcoin software releases and project updates. Sparrow, add oxt.me fee rate source. Add historical fiat values to the transaction CSV. Increase and decrease maximum limit. Add QR display and a bunch of other things. By the way, oxt.me is closed source for anybody that doesn't know. Chain analysis company. Also, add Crux. That's very cool. Crux is a nice little DIY project. Florestra, version 0.5.1. Manual peer connection, SOC 5 support, ENS-RPC, ZMQ block notification, and BIP 158 complex blocks filters.
I really need to stand up a Florestra node. Greg Sanders keeps giving me shit that I haven't done it yet. But I really want to play with it. I don't know, Ben or Roy, have you guys checked out Florestra at all?
Yeah, I was hanging out with, this is like the UTXO thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was hanging out with Calvin at TabConf, and he was trying to show me on it of putting it into Mutiny, because they have like a WASM compilation version of it, but I couldn't get it to work.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I would love to like my dream for Mutiny one day is like it runs a Bitcoin full node in it with
hell yes,
something like UTXO and
like ZeroSync.
ZeroSync, yeah. But
yeah,
soon TM.
That's the dream, right? Is like you download a couple of megabytes of proof and UTXO commitments, and like you're a fully validating node on your phone.
Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah, what's cool about Florestra is it's like a UTXO client that also ships with like an Electrum server. So you can just like use any, end user wallet that supports Electrum, and you can like plug into UTXO, which is pretty cool.
Very neat. Nunchuk, Android, desktop, and iOS, all new versions. Byzantine rollout, the collaborative custody platform for Bitcoin advisors. It's just kind of cool. Like they have this approach where like it's collaborative multi-sig, kind of like Unchained and Casa, but they don't own that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They just offer the consign like dumb server, right? Based on whatever spec you want. But then they point out to people who are advisors, and then you find that in your circle of trust, somebody who does advising for Nunchuk setups that help you do that. I don't know. It's an interesting different model. Libwally Core version 1.0. Library version number is now available to compile with time constants, added support for wallet policies, added support for iterating and querying keys in descriptor. The library allocation function are now exposed, and added support for encrypted request response, and a PyPy wheel uploads. Citadel, new website, new installation tool. Blockstream Green iOS version 4.0.19. Add watch only import scanning Jade animated QR codes. Add delegated Lightning account for Jade. Blockstream Green Android version 4.0.20. Oh, same, yeah. Support Lightning with Jade AirGap BIP85 mnemonic. Support Jade watch only import for scanning BCUR animated QR codes. We're going to get to that. Enable 2FA call method and SMS backup. HODL, new design. Lots of cool. I looked at the design. It looks pretty. Lots of new flows on how they do contracts.
Oh, cool.
ESP-Miner version 2.0.4. Swarm review AXOS. Monitor administrative all your AXOS devices for a single view. No idea what that is. ESP-Miner. Oh, it's the ESP32 mining project. Peach 0.3.4 updated how user reputation is calculated under the hood. Hungarian now incorporated, and other little updates. All right, Project Spotlight. Apollo 2, Home Miner by FutureBit. Apollo OS 2.0, built-in Stratum Solo Pool, 5nm ASIC, 6 to 10 terahash hash rate, as low as 28 watts terahash. Okay. 200 to 400 watts of power, starting at $800. That's cool.
I just clicked on their website. I don't know if you guys have seen what this thing looks like. It's got like this aluminum enclosure.
It's pretty.
I had a sense memory to like Butterfly Labs when I saw this. Like really bad.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's what the meme comes from, was Butterfly Labs.
Yeah.
Did you ever see their hardware wallet that never shipped? They used to go to every conference with like a glass display case with this wallet inside that was not powered on. It was e-ink, so they just flashed an image on it.
Really?
It was completely like empty inside. One time the sales guy told me, right?
Yeah.
And they would go from like conference to conference to conference just displaying that. What a hilarious company.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, whenever there is e-ink on products, just know that they can flash an image and then go put it in there.
For days.
It doesn't need power to retain the picture.
That's right.
All right. BBQr. Better Bitcoin QR. So this is from us. Peter DocHacks made this spec. It's early days. We wanted a spec that's more hardware friendly, like embedded devices, and it was simpler. You know, QRs are such a simple, amazing, brilliant technology, and like people just tend to push the wrong sort of like encoding of things into QR and sort of complicating them. So I'll offer a few points, but let me just read so encodes larger files into a series of QR codes so they can cross air gap. It's about 30% more efficient than for PSBTs than the existing ways of doing it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this protocol enables larger than can fit into a single QR to be sent as a series of QRs, animated QRs. Target file types are PSBT. So PSBT is hard typed. That's how we find optimizations. And then the folks from Seed Hammer have suggested that we add also mini script outputs, which makes sense, but there is no standard yet on how to do that. So we're waiting for that standard to be. It makes complete sense. So we'll add that. And it also supports CBOR, JSON, and text options for general purpose use. And we carefully consider the data inside the QR codes and apply a deep knowledge of how the QR work so that no pixel nor byte is ever wasted. Internally supports hex and base 32 serializations and constrain zlib option for data compression. This is all done with an eye to embedded implementations on very constrained devices like hardware wallets, which may not have enough memory to keep more than one single QR code around, right? So it's just that like sometimes the memory in some of these devices, like it's you can't even keep the multiple QRs in memory. You have to generate them on the fly to load into memory. So, now imagine loading a bunch of libraries at the same time, so then I'll get a little bit into, there is this other library from this entity called Blockchain Commons that sort of I don't know too much about. It seems to have like, a few wallets that use it. It's not present in most of the hardware wallets that are most of the market. Sparrow does support it, but Craig is great and he supports everything. So anyway, we did consider it, did take a look at it. This existing thing is it requires a bunch of dependencies, which in security is a no-go, and for embedded is a no-go because it can't fit.
Yeah.
Maybe some hardware wallets have more memory, right? But ideally in hardware, we try to keep things to as little as possible because we can put other features in the extra memory. So, for example, one weird thing is it requires a word list with 256 times 4 bytes. Why? It's completely unnecessary, right? So that's a lot of memory that gets wasted, right? It requires CBOR, which we love, but again, unnecessary.
Well, if you're not using it, that's a lot of allocation of very scarce memory that you don't want to have to pay for if you're not actually going to do CBOR encoding.
Exactly. And then he uses this weird Zoshiro 256 checksum algo, completely also unnecessary because there is already checksum. So they might have reasons on why they did it. It's just, yet one more dependency. And then there is this other, a completely sort of CBOR already exists. Why do you need the Guardian deterministic CBOR library? It's just more stuff. It's reinventing the wheel. It's, wallets with small stall base. So anyways, and everybody hates the QRs right now on hardware wallets because they can't read off screens. So, that's the feedback that we get. So we sort of put this spec out there. There is no BIP for Bitcoin QRs. So no, and I've never seen this BCUR on the mailing list either. We'll discuss. I'm pretty sure that if it was, the word list in memory would have been probably pushed back. So anyways, I don't know, what do you guys think?
What's the secret sauce there on optimizing the QR?
It's just doing less serialization and and the encoding and using zlib. It truly is simple.
But it needs to be interoperable, meaning the reader needs to understand that the data is compressed, right?
No.
So I don't understand. Yeah.
So you're just passing bytes, right? Over the QR, right? The interpreter is decompressing the QR.
So you need an interpreter on the other end.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
And what's cool about QRs is that you should always gracefully degrade to non-compressed and also sort of just standard clear QR, right? So it could be just text. And what's cool is that if you're doing your QR reading correctly, right? Especially so a good QR reader, right, doesn't give the data twice. Once it reads, right, it doesn't read the data again unless it's presented new data, right? So what's really cool is you can feed this very well with an animated QR. So you read once, right? Second data set, third data set, right? And you pass it on, and it should all just work. So we're trying to sort of really play with it just works as opposed to people fiddling with stuff. And again, if you have a savings of 30%, there is a much higher chance that you can just fit everything to an initial original single QR code, which is the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Well, I also imagine, if you're on an embedded device, and you've got some RTOS and you are trying to drive refresh rate on the display at the same time as you're generating QR codes,
yeah,
having that kind of memory saving really matters.
Welcome to our life.
Yeah.
And we're driving the display on I2C, by the way.
So 30% savings and not having to include a bunch of memory is a huge thing. So I'm guessing you guys are going to be able to drive animated QR codes on the Q1, right?
Yeah, or the Mark IV too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be awesome.
That's the goal.
We have QR issues in Lightning, of course, with BIP21 and with LNURL and with Bol 12. QRs are getting bigger and bigger. The problem is that we don't control both ends, right? We need an interoperable specification that everyone's implements. And I don't think we're even started the discussions.
It's okay. Like, maybe people get a little too emotional about this stuff, but it's very normal to have, like, in a new nascent industry, nascent feature, to have, competing specs. Some people may have to re-implement things. It's normal.
But in Lightning specifically, it's super, super difficult.
Oh yeah, Lightning is a mess.
Super difficult because Lightning basically equals interoperability. If you have a proprietary specification, or you have a specification that only one vendor or two vendor implements, then you're losing the value proposition basically.
Well, and at that point, you might as well just do something more centralized and be able to, like, not have to.
Yeah.
Not use Lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and I'm still, like, I'm very skeptical people are going to need animated QRs for most things. If you just optimize right and you have decent screen sizes, like, you should be fine. But anyway, so this license is BBQr.org, and it's a public domain. So for the FOSS lovers, it doesn't get better than that. So, like, right, maybe you should go take a peek at it. Maybe, like,
yeah, I will.
Maybe this is useful to Lightning because it's a little bit more compressed.
Yeah.
Maybe there could be some Lightning types that are hard typed, right? Because I mean, really, like, hard typing is how you find most of the optimization, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we can do that with, like, very close to QR way of doing things, I think we have a good chance of improving things for everyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that in our case, QR is very important. We're dealing with a lot of low-ended Android devices, for example, where the camera is not as good as shit. And then and then
it's that kind of pod.
and then I need to adjust. And then QR optimization is super, super important.
Yeah. Ben, did you take a peek at the spec?
I've never written a QR thing, so I don't totally know what's going on. But the main thing that I saw was comparing and contrasting, like, people like Craig Raw and other people's like, basically, like, qualms with this spec versus the existing one that the Blockchain Commons guys made. It seemed like the main drawback that they said was, like, with the old one, you could, like, if you missed one of the images, you didn't have to, like, go through all of them again to, like, see it. It seemed like a nice, like, UX thing, but I don't know how they're achieving that. Probably just some, like, they're, like, putting multiple, like, duplicating the data.
That's forward error correction, right? It just means you have to, like, add a fuck ton more data.
Yeah.
So that like, but, like, if we're realistic here, I mean, like, how many PSBTs are going to have more than a couple, like, maybe, like, 5 QRs, on a screen size that's, like, of a phone, because that's what you're taking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like, I feel like we can do better, and we're totally open to suggestions. Like, this is very sort of, like, early, sort of, like, here's the spec, sort of, like, please, like, provide some comments that are constructive, and, like, try to do our best to integrate, right?
Yeah, most of the time when I've used animated QR codes for PSBTs, it's been through, like, Blue Wallet. Like, Blue Wallet plus Sparrow usually works pretty well. I'm curious to see what these QRs look like compared to PSBTs coming out of Blue Wallet.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I put the whole code base in a GIF. I think it took like 3 QRs.
Oh, that's cool.
That was on the post. And below is all the code in a QR.
Nice.
Anyways, it's just, I feel like optimizing data so that you have less QRs is a better path than having more QRs, but having more forward correction. Again, that's philosophical, right? Like, and at the end of the day, it's going to depend on the readers to do a decent job, right? Or, help them do a decent job by having less pixels on the screen.
Yeah, I wonder, like, if they remove that forward error correction, like, does that reduce the number of QRs by, like, half, so it doesn't even matter then? Like, who knows?
Exactly. We were not part of, like, the making of that spec, so, like, I don't know, like, the previous conversations and, like, what happened there. I am just very amazed that, like, that was not done on the mailing list, because, like, if you do want buy-in from major vendors, you might want to do that on the mailing list, right? I mean, like it or not, hell or not, that's the least. Is like sort of like like see if there is like major install base players sort of like they're interested in sort of participating on the spec sort of doing. Next, Ocean.xyz. The new mining pool is out. This is the relaunch of Eligious Pool. It raised 6.2 mil, and it's very interesting model, non-custodial. It doesn't do KYC. You can just put your Bitcoin address there, and they'll send you the Bitcoin when it hits a certain threshold. Oh, and they say they're going to push out even if you don't have enough threshold after a certain amount of time. They want to do over Lightning eventually, so you can send out those tiny sats. Like a lot of the things are like in the right place. I am investor on it too, so like I'm just putting it out there. Very biased on this. I don't know if people watch the presentation, but love it or hate Luke. Luke has been a constant in Bitcoin, and I've always said this like for many years that Bitcoin Knots is the firewall of Bitcoin. You have the guy who's like the most sort of principled, like his principles or not, but like he is the most, let's call it anal about what a Bitcoin sort of like minimal consensus spec should be.
Yeah.
That's not, and is the only like alternative to core that's out there that is compatible. It doesn't break, that does things the Bitcoin way, right? So like not going to get into libbtc, libbitcoin. Anyway, so they're using it, and but here's the cool thing, the way it's designed, like the miners are going to be able to do like their own block templates, and they're also going to be able to run core themselves, right? So it's not like you're not forced to use their node, let's put it this way. Also, Stratum V2 is coming, right? TM 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
But, things are getting better. And I think this is a step in the right direction. It's voluntary, right? I think this would be great.
Yeah, the stuff that's live now, as I've like been looking at this over the last day and trying to pierce through some of the hype and the FUD online, right? So the stuff that's out right now is, if you're a miner, you can just point at their endpoint. You don't need to create an account. You just give them a Bitcoin address and you start mining. When they find a block, if your payout is above 0.01, like 03 something Bitcoin, then you get paid directly out of the Coinbase, which is super cool. If your payout is less than that, then it'll accumulate until you have enough or until they make like a discretionary payment. And then, the thing that's pretty cool is they are publishing the block template for the current block that they're mining on the website. There's no documented API, but I was like poking around in the browser and I found the WebSocket endpoint and wrote like a script to pull it. My script goes through and counts the number of inscriptions in their current block template, because there's been a lot of people saying that they're filtering and they're not. And then I've seen some rumors that they're using knots right now for template construction. I don't know if that's true or not, but when and if they roll out Stratum V2 support, if they let people propose their own templates, then people can use whatever they want for template construction. So it's super cool. It's a huge step in the right direction. Really excited to see where they go with it.
I think Mononaut did confirm that they are using knots, because he was comparing templates between like that and what Mempool has, and the only difference was like op returns were 83 bytes max size for normal blocks, and on that pool it was like 34 bytes or something. So it seems like that's something Luke would do, and like restrict that size.
Dude, op return bot down bad. Like yeah, the only things that are getting filtered right now are op return bot and open timestamps.
Yeah. My income is plummeted.
Good luck on Mutiny.
So yeah, like I don't know, like just in principle, right? Like we need people trying to do different things with mining, right? Like
totally.
Otherwise we're fucked.
Yeah.
Like that is, I don't think people appreciate how bad it is right now. The good thing is Bitcoin economic incentives protect us, right, from even large mining centralization, right? Because They don't want to screw their own bags, right? But a lot of these miners, sell the BTC and take fiat. So they don't necessarily have Bitcoin's interest in mind. So it gets complicated. But anyways, I really like what they're doing. I feel like, we need principled people trying to do things for profit and for glory in certain directions. And, that's how we win. And they're not censoring ordinals, even though they're not ordinal fans.
I expected that they would be, and I'm kind of like expecting that at some point maybe they will. But I really think that their end game is they probably want to get to a point that miners can choose their own templates.
Yes.
And
that's the goal.
Even if you're like a small home miner, if you're, mining with them, then you get payouts over Lightning or something else. Like I think that's clearly the direction that they're going. Like they're really, really trying to make, individual miners have more control and more discretion over the blocks that they build.
Because that's how we win against censorship, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
That could be ordinals, it could be OFAC list, it could be other things, right?
Could be something we don't even know about yet. Yeah.
What we need is to decentralize the decision of what goes in a block, right? And then toss that to the lottery that it is the winning hash unit, right?
Yep.
And then good luck to regulators to try to figure out, what happened there, right?
Yeah.
So again, how they feel about it is irrelevant to this endeavor, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then I guess the world is just going to divide into, right? You have the ORD respecters and ORD disrespecters, and they're going to compete for hash rate, and we get more hash rate. And then you might have the OFAC respecters and the OFAC disrespecters.
Well, it's nice, like even before they roll out Stratum V2, at least with them publishing their block templates, if individual miners have the software for it, they can consume that and then decide whether or not they want to mine on that block. So it's still more, discretionary ability than miners have with existing pools. So like this is all just net good for Bitcoin.
Agreed. Oh, this is a great segue. Do you wanna tell everybody now that you told the tweeter what's going on with your professional life?
Oh, yeah. I work on Taproot Wizards now full time. Twitter didn't cancel me, which was really surprising. So I'm paying more attention to ordinal stuff in blocks than I did before, which was already a lot.
Don't know. Maybe Udi does a 180 and goes back to being good Udi.
Yeah, that would be like quite a redemption arc, right? Like he starts doing JPEGs on Bitcoin, and then you and him are doing virtual conferences talking about Lightning again.
Yeah, and the way I see it is like now I have an inside man and also taking their money. So good for you.
I love it.
Bright side, buddy. Bright side. All right, so BitcoinMiniGuides.com. Oh, that's mine. Bitcoin Mini Guides for Beginners. It's like a bunch of tiny little single picture explanation on how to set up phone wallets. Surprisingly enough, like I took this from inspired from HODL. It's very helpful. Like it is surprisingly helpful. Like most of the time, what noobs need is just like, here's one picture that explains the arc of setting up the wallet. We have one for Breez. We need one for Mutiny. So Ben, if you want to send one to us, we will add.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll get Paul to make it.
There you go. I gotta keep Paul busy.
Yeah, these are all really short. It's like Breez Wallet, like step 1, download it. Step 2, open it. Step 3, like back up your wallet, and now you're done.
Yeah, but like that's all it takes, because like people don't understand that like there is no steps in between oftentimes, right? Like it's like, because you have all these people on Twitter screaming at them, you need like 3 laptops and 5 DVDs to send a zap, right? Like
yeah,
it's like, no, here's a picture that just shows like download, open, use.
Well, and I feel like a lot of the guides are kind of like that meme about like drawing the owl, where it's like step 1, like you do a circle. Step 2, you do like 2 legs. Then step 3, like you finish the rest of the owl.
Yes.
and it's not, right? Like, I remember I got my dad using Breez like a year and a half ago. And I like called him, during lunch, and I was like, put your phone on speaker, install this app. And in like 4 minutes, he was running Breez, and I sent him like $5 or something like across the world. And it just like worked, right? And I feel like just getting people to download the app and open it is like 90% of the battle for a lot of these apps.
Yep. Just download the app. Like, that's like 90% of the work. All right. The next one is librariadesatoshi.com. So somebody is translating a lot of Bitcoin related stuff and Satoshi related tags into Spanish. Very cool. Truevote. Open, fully digital, tamper-proof, verifiable voting system. Democracy that got the fail is even better project. Lightning. Plus L2, plus L3. We're going to get there. So, Roy, do you want to talk about Breez updates?
What do you have on your list?
Here. It's the Lipa. Here, I posted on the chat.
Okay.
Well, he pulls that up. I mean, earlier you were talking about like you just got all these new users who are refugees from Wallet of Satoshi, and they're all like using the I'll call it Breez Classic, like the old LND like based version.
Breez Mobile,
right? So you guys are moving to something based on Greenlight. Like, what's the status of that?
So we've been working for the past year and a half on the Breez SDK.
Yeah.
So we have Breez Mobile. That's the classic Breez that you know from the App Store. You download Breez. It runs a full featured LND node as part of the mobile device. We wanted to offer our non-custodial Lightning payment infrastructure to other vendors, other companies, other users. Basically, any developer that want to integrate Lightning payments into their stack can use the Breez SDK. The Breez SDK is using, behind the scenes, it uses the Greenlight infrastructure from Blockstream.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hybrid model where the nodes run on the cloud and the keys resides on the client, on the device. So it can be a desktop client, can be a mobile client, it can be a web client, but essentially the keys resides on the client. And the node runs on the cloud, and there's a lot of user experience advantages to that. Ask your dad if he gets a Breez sync from time to time.
Yeah,
he will, because the Breez Classic mobile app uses Neutrino, and there's no Neutrino in the Breez SDK. So from a user experience, there's a lot of advantages. It's not just UX optimization, but it's also the fact that you can use the same node from multiple devices and multiple applications. So all the applications that are basically using the Breez SDK are interoperable. You can use the same balance from different apps.
Oh, that's cool.
So for example, Blockstream Green is using the Breez SDK, Relay is using the Breez SDK, Bitbox is using the Breez SDK, Lipa, and we just announced this week, is using the Breez SDK, CrowdHealth is using the Breez SDK, and all these apps are interoperable in a sense that there's one UX issue in Lightning, that if you're using multiple Lightning services, your balance is scattered around multiple wallets. So there is a need to share the keys between these different wallets. It's up to you to decide if you want to kind of share and trust the new service with your keys, or create a new wallet and then you have the same issues of multiple balances scattered around multiple apps. There is one optimization in that regard that we're working with Blockstream on, where you'll be able to define access rights using the CLN, the core Lightning equivalent to the LND macaroon is called runes. So we'll have an infrastructure where you will be able to create a rune that has only read-only access to the node. So
very cool.
So it will be so a lot of work, NVK, to answer your question, a lot of work on the SDK. We've released, I think, 2 versions only in the last week, to 0.2.9 and 0.2.10. Very rapid pace on SDK releases, and we're continuing to onboard new partners all the time. So it's great.
Very cool. Yeah, it does seem that people like your SDK. That's great.
I like our SDK. That's I think what's the most important thing. I think it's a new way of. We're actually, my goal is to abolish the term wallet and to abolish the term node. I don't want Lightning node. and I don't want Lightning wallets. I think Lightning needs to be a service. So you have Lightning payments, you have a send API, you have a receive API, just use the API. And I don't want people to use wallets, basically. You said, rightfully so, you said that 90% of the job is to download the app. We need to get past that. Like people won't move to Lightning. We need to bring Lightning to the people, meaning integrate Lightning into existing use cases, but even new use cases like ordinals, for example. We need to bring Lightning to these use cases instead of trying to move the people to a Lightning wallet.
Yep. Totally agree.
Ben?
You want me to show Mutiny?
Yeah, go ahead. You do the Mutiny and then I'll do Phoenix. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Like Mutiny's kind of, I mean, it's very similar to Breez, but kind of the flip side where with Breez, like the node and all that stuff is running in the cloud, and then you have keys locally. Whereas with Mutiny, everything is running locally, and then we're using the cloud as like a fallback backup storage that's encrypted. So, if we disappear, you're not like, oh no, all my funds are gone, all my channel state's gone, blah, blah, blah. You always have a copy of it locally. We do cloud backups to help handle other stuff. And it is like, I do kind of envy Roy's model sometimes because it's so much harder sometimes. We're like we experienced this like when we launched, kind of first day, we get like 1,000 support tickets of like, I lost all my money.
That happened to me.
Because people, people type in their seed phrase into one app and then open it on their computer and type in their seed again, and then the node's running in two places at once, and that causes issues. And then like force closes happen, and it's not good. So like we didn't expect like a ton of people to do that, but apparently that was everyone's first instinct. So yeah, like we kind of have those problems. We have to solve that with our basically like putting locks on each device for how long it can or which one is running and stuff like that. But lately, like all of our force closures, we fixed those, and now our force closures are coming from everyone paying Zeus Lightning addresses, and then payments would get stuck, and then we'd have to, and then the user wouldn't open their phone within 24 hours, so then stuff would force close.
We have to talk about that. I think it's a huge issue. I think it's a problem. I don't know why Evan is being so cavalier about that, but I think they shipped a bad feature that harms the network. Period. I don't know why you can say how we position it is okay. Now you guys need to step up and you need to improve Lightning in order for it to work. No, you fucked up. You shipped a bad feature. We have users that their channels are getting closed because of this Zap Locker nonsense. Even the Zap Locker creator, which is, by the way, it's just a reiteration of the Lightning Road proposal we had years back, which we didn't implement exactly because of this problem. I hate the Zaplocker feature. I think it's bad for the network. I think it's bad for non-custodial Lightning. I thought completely 100% support Mutiny and Ben with their decision to stop zapping to Zeus wallet. And we might do that as well if the force closures will continue.
So Evan is not here, and I am not like a Lightning expert. So like, why don't you guys just sort of just explain, like, just technically speaking, like why this interoperability is sort of breaking?
And like basically the way it works is like with Lightning, you have like payments along this multiple hops, and then the final payment, once it gets to them, they give you the pre-image, and then everyone claims their funds along that route. But to be online to like reveal that pre-image is a problem for mobile nodes because you don't have the app open. So basically what he's doing is just like holding that payment stuck there until the user comes online to hit accept and claim that payment. And that causes a problem because if I'm an always online node, it's not too much big of a problem because then my payment is stuck for a while, the user claims it, and then it'll fall back to me, and I'm still online to like see that. But if I'm offline, like so if it's going like Mutiny to Zeus, it's a problem because say I send the payment out at like 12 p.m. and then I don't open the app, I close the app, and then the Zeus user claims it at like midnight. So now I have, and there's only like a 24-hour window. So now I have to open Mutiny between midnight and 12 p.m. the next day to be able to actually claim that payment. Otherwise, I'll get a forced close.
And you don't have any way of knowing that you need to open your wallet in order to kind of settle the payment.
Exactly.
There is no mechanism in place.
Yeah. We have no way knowing if it happened. Yeah, and it's just like, and even furthermore, like if I get a forced close, then if the user doesn't open the app for a week, then the forced close can get swept by the LSP, and that's even more problems because now like I just tried to send 21 sats to a friend, and now all my money is gone, which is like worst case scenario. So
not to mention the problem that is causing in the network itself, meaning the liquidity when you send the payment, all the liquidity along the route is locked and cannot be reused until this payment is being settled. So if you use it for 21 zap, okay, not a big deal. But imagine you zap someone 1 million Satoshi, then along the route, all the nodes keeps this million Satoshi in a locked state until this payment is settled, which can take at least 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lightning.
So what we did was we just banned that node ID for anything in Zaps, where it's just like, if you see this node ID, just don't pay that invoice because it's going to cause a forced closure. And it like since doing that, we haven't got a single forced closure support ticket, so it's been great. But yeah, a bunch of people were mad about it. But like the people that are mad are like people that don't use the wallet. It seems like because like we had tons of users who are like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "Oh wait, that's why I lost my money. Okay, this is a good feature." So
yeah, don't lose the money.
Yeah.
Classic. It's growing pain, man. Growing pains.
I like the fact that, as you said earlier, like we need to test things out and to push stuff, experimental stuff to market. But I think in this case, when you realize, you understand the consequences, like you shouldn't do something that has these implications. You just shouldn't do that. I like Evan. I like Zeus. I like what he's doing. But I think in this specific case, he made the wrong call.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I think like a lot of this was a little bit caused by HRF because they put out that 2 Bitcoin bounty for non-custodial mobile Lightning address. And I remember talking to Alex Glassing about this. It's like the only way to do this is stuck HTLCs. It's going to cause a bunch of problems. He's like, well, we'll see. And here we are.
Fuck around, find out. Hey, Ben, I put the Mutiny Node updates on the chat for you to read.
Yeah, let me pull those up. Yeah.
Just if on the topic before we segue to Mutiny, on the topic of asynchronous payments, I just want to shout out that's the most important feature that all the ecosystem needs to focus on when it comes to non-custodial Lightning. A lot of work is being done by Sparrow and Matt Corello and the team there, but it's not enough. We need LND to get on board when it comes to the Bolt specification, specifically Bolt 12.
Now, they're busy with shitcoins on Lightning.
Exactly why I'm mentioning that. We need to refocus and to understand that there's still fundamentals in Lightning that aren't implemented. And if we're not going to get back to the basics and add the missing building blocks for us to have a robust non-custodial infrastructure, Lightning gonna suck.
Well, and like shitcoins on Lightning are going to be way more complicated than just normal Lightning. So we should probably have normal Lightning really solid before we try to shitcoin on Lightning.
Yeah.
Exactly, 100%.
It's a spicy take, but
Totally agree.
100%. But both 12 onion messages, blinded path, let's get it into LND. Like we have to get into LND or stop using LND. That's another option.
I've been calling Bolt 12 non-custodial LNURL. It's really pissed off a lot of
people. It's exactly non-custodial LNURL.
Yeah.
It's a trust minimized LNURL, I would say.
Yeah.
All right, Ben. Mutiny Node, sir.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been doing a bunch of basically like since we fixed forced closures with that, now it's like we have free time to work on things again. So one thing is with the latest LDK release, we were able to improve payment reliability like even more. So that was a big jump. I think now we have like 80% success rate or something on like first try and stuff. So
only in Lightning.
Yeah, but it's getting a lot better.
What's the total success rate?
It's like on first try, I think we have like 83 to 80 something percent like success rate for like a million sat payments. And then like if we give it enough tries, it's near 100% success rate.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's all Tony's work. He's been like we have this internal dashboard that's just like tons of charts and graphs, and it's pretty cool. So that's been a lot of fun. Otherwise, we also started forking LDK to like fix some stuff for us leading up for future features where like basically like running it now and we used to run in like no standard mode for like embedded devices, but we didn't need to do that, so we made it so we can run it in standard mode. And we've been fixing some other like small things around like the device locks and stuff like that. So basically like right now we're just kind of cleaning up the code base a bunch, and then hopefully either end of this month or early next year we'll have some really big features coming out.
Cool. All right. Phoenix 2.0.7, add button in receive screen to open scanner. That's a good one. Grace period for swap-ins is now displayed in the wallet info. Alby version 3.4.0, stereo unit per near opposition. Overhaul transaction list and details view, German translations. alby-js-sdk adds the ability to use the Alby API decode invoices. Well, of Satoshi, we talked about it. Blixt Android version 0.6.9 iOS high. Added Lightning Box support. Lightning Box is a Lightning provider giving address to receive from.
Lightning Box is an example, NVK, if I can...
Yeah, go for it. Please do. I gloss over a lot of this fucking Lightning shit.
Lightning Box is an example of delivering an optimization for asynchronous Lightning payment in a very responsible way. So what Hampus did there is to kind of intercept the Lightning addresses work. The underlying infrastructure is LN URL pay exchange. So the Lightning Box intercept the LN URL pay and sends the LN URL pay URL in a mobile notification to the Blixt user, even if they're offline. And then the Blixt user can kind of get the funds that were sent through the LN URL pay, meaning that I can zap a Blixt offline user using the Lightning Box infrastructure, which is cool. It doesn't address a lot of issues because you can only zap from a custodial service. You can't zap from a non-custodial service, but still it's completely non-custodial and it doesn't go into the challenges that we have with ZapLocker. So a very cool.
I love the fact that like Nostr really forced Lightning people to get their shit together with a bunch of stuff because he really made a lot more volume transactions from many different permutations of senders and receivers than was there before.
I think again, back to the offline, the asynchronous payments in Lightning and the offline payments in Lightning, I think the nature of Nostr is asynchronous.
Yep.
That was kind of the thing that shaked things up.
Yes.
Because people saw it's very important to support asynchronous payments.
Is there any project out there that's like putting a lot of effort into the offline payment stuff that may be seeking funding or looking for grants or anything like that? Because they should go and knock on the door of OpenSats.
Yeah, I think it's more of a specification issue that we have in the space with all the different implementations pulling to different directions, but mainly it's the lack of focus of L&D, again, on the core building blocks that needs to be in there in order to support the use case.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's about Vault 12 support, Onion messages support, blinded path of support. They all need to go into L&D for us to be able to implement asynchronous payment. There's another project, like another bolt around the PTLCs, but I think there's kind of a consensus around the PTLCs replacing HTLCs. We'll get there. I'm not too worried about that. It's just a matter of time. But it's a matter of focus and putting these building blocks together.
Right.
In the meantime, people are finding different workarounds, but until we have the infrastructure in the core Lightning specification, we'll run into various issues. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
There's a project lnbk, which is like a separate binary that you run alongside LND that lets you. It's the end goal is to have all this like kind of functionality, but like it's a very ugly hack, and it's like really should be built straight into LND. But I do know that like the LDK team recently, like one of their major priorities is trying to get Taproot channels out, but they've kind of like said like, no, we need to focus on async payments more than Taproot channels because it's becoming a problem now, and like they're seeing like all the problems we're having and stuff like that. And it's like, Taproot channels are great, but like async payments are like just so much more important, it seems like. So
yes,
they're moving that direction, which is going to be great for us to see.
Yeah, I mean, focus on getting the car still rolling instead of, it's like change the wheel before you change the engine.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, BitBanana version 0.7.0. Balance details on screen and added peer management and a few other things. 10.10.1, public beta launched, including Lightning first self-custodial stablecoin. Interesting. Everybody wants to be Tether on Lightning because everybody wants a cut of their 5%.
Yep.
The incentive is hard on that one. Give me those treasuries over Bitcoin, baby.
Yeah, the UX on 10.10.1 for their stablecoin thing, and like they're doing it with DLCs, so it's like a synthetic stablecoin using a pay for difference,
contract for difference.
So, but like the UX is actually pretty nice. Like you have like a dollar balance and a Bitcoin balance, and if I want to like send Ben $1, I can say I want to send him $1, and it'll like close the contract and then send a Lightning payment, and then he just like receives Lightning.
How do these things behave in extreme volatility?
Yeah, that's the thing where I think these things fall apart, because like if Bitcoin does one of its traditional like 80% like value nosedives, that's the moment when simultaneously a lot of people are going to want stablecoins, and also nobody's going to want to go like leverage long on Bitcoin on the other side of the trade.
Yes, there is no counter trade, right?
Yeah, that's where it seems really scary.
And everyone is eating the cost on the DLC right now. Let's let's be honest about it. Like it's not free. There is a cost associated for buying the contract.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also right now, I think 10.10.1 is the counterparty on all of them.
Yeah,
like they're not doing like peer to peer, so like they're the counterparty and they're the oracle.
Oof.
So like you're playing with the house.
It does have problems with those like huge dives too, because like normally it's like we both like match how much liquidity we put up. So like we both put up say like 1 Bitcoin, but like if price 2x's or like 2.1x's, now there's not enough money to have this here. So
right,
you do have liquidity restraints there,
and it's not going to change. Bitcoin is just going to become more violent on locals.
Yeah.
Right. So like it's like in long term, like the volatility is decreasing, right? But the dollar. The local dollar based volatility is going to be insane, right? Like we're going to move like, $100,000 worth, in a day soon enough, right? Like it's going to get weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, CLN, Bitcoin Orange Paper, highlight for users. Okay, so it's very long CLN updates there. lnbits version 0.11.2, new service fees, settings that lets earn transaction fees. LND version 0.17.2, functional enhancements, RPC additions, and LN CLI additions. Cashu Nutshell, let's get to L3. Version 0.14.0. Well-known spending conditions. Nutshell now supports NUT10 spending conditions, including P2PK, P2P pay-to-pub key, allows you to lock a token to a specific pub key. DLAC proofs, discrete log quality proofs are now generated by the Mint. Very cool. Love this project. I still think this is going to help us a lot because we can't divide Bitcoin further.
Yeah, something that's interesting is, we just mentioned there's an lnbits release. I saw in the notes here that you can use Alby Wallet as a funding source, which is kind of funny. Like you can back your lnbits with Alby, but one place where that might be kind of interesting or fun is you can do like a one-click install of a Cashu mint in lnbits.
Right.
And so now you can use like your own node, or you can use a custodial node to do like Cashu. So maybe this is a way that people can like play with Cashu more.
One of the main reasons why I want Sats Link to happen sooner is because I really want to have a device that's connected to the Wi-Fi to send Cashus. It's like perfect for that. Like,
Yeah.
Lightning too. You could do some cool Lightning shit because it's connected. But the idea is sending Cashus P2P offline. That would be insane. You could be in a conference, everybody paying each other, transferring those tokens, and then eventually you do clear on chain once you connect back.
But you'll need your animated QRs for that, for sure.
That's right. I don't know. Like the screen is much bigger. Maybe.
I saw the Fedi, at least in the Fedi user experience, you have this kind of animated.
Oh, no, the Fedi is ginormous. No, the Cashus I think are smaller.
Okay, I'll.
But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But yes, it's all doable.
And by the way, Rijndael, you can do lnbits also in a non-custodial manner. As you can use the Breez SDK as a funding source, and then issue Cashus on top of a non-custodial Lightning as well.
That's nice.
Yeah.
eNuts version 0.1.2-beta, Spanish and Hungarian translations. So that's essentially the app for you to use your Cashus. Your nuts, sorry. I don't want to get the nuts wrong. Do you think they sun their nuts when they do the updates? I mean, to dry the Cashus, of course. So, Stalker News, log in by pasting magic link. All right, Project Spotlight. acceptln.com. Every email address now accepts Bitcoin Lightning. Type any email address, instantly send Bitcoin Lightning. So, this is just what LN Proxy as a website?
I guess.
All right.
I think you get an email if you get a payment of how to claim it. It's weird.
All right. Nostr software releases and project updates. NDK 2.2.0 OAuth Unleashed. Thanks, Pablo, for the homage. So Pablo's been working on this. It's really cool. We talked a bit about it. This release includes a new feature that we'll propose for NIP 46 that creates an OAuth experience. It's kind of like a, so he has the bunker, right? How do they call it? Okay, I forgot because he got it from CK Bunker. He just copies my names and then he goes and he puts some Nostr relation to it. And then I get very confused. Pablo, you should have been here to explain this. Anyways, so there is some back and forth with his bunker thing. It makes the Nostr experience a lot better.
He posted a demo this morning on Nostr. It was really slick. I was like, oh, this is actually usable by normies versus
yes,
current just not.
Man, I'm either getting old or my brain just can't handle it anymore. It's I go to a Nostr conference to talk about a bunch of Nostr tech, and then I go away and it's my brain literally goes memory management and just trashes all that memory, literally just gone, empty.
Garbage collector.
Garbage collection is just insane here. And then there's only so much memory, and I guess you get older and that's what happens. I don't know. Brutal, man. We literally talked about this OAuth for, I don't know, a whole 2-hour walk.
Well, I mean, I think part of what makes the other thing that makes it hard to keep up with all the Nostr stuff is, it's so easy to try stuff on Nostr, which I think is Nostr's superpower. Over Christmas last year, I wrote a Nostr bot in 40 minutes or something. So there's a lot of things that people try for a week and then throw away. And so every time I look around what's happening in Nostr, there's 3 things in common with the last time I looked, and everything else is brand new again.
Yeah, I know, and 90% of them were coded by Pablo.
Yeah, that's true.
So he added a notary DVM, so that's really cool. A DVM, it's a digital vending machine for open timestamps. So you have a way to pipe that through Nostr. Recurring subscriptions, and Nostr Wallet Connect DVM, so you can DVM the connecting. Yeah, the inception of shit on Nostr also gets pretty crazy. Rust Nostr version 0.25.0. Damus updated to 1.6. Amethyst to version 0.81.3. They did a massive refactoring. Yaki Hone, now available for testing on iOS and Android. Nosotros, many updates. Coracle, version 0.3.12. Yana, version 0.12. They had a gossip inbox and outbox model. Nice. Nostri.me, version 0.1.5. That's sexy. Nos.social, 0.1 between brackets 95. Don't like the nomenclature. Spring, the Nostr browser, Nostr universe, version 0.10.0. 0x chat. No, 0x hat. No, this has to be 0x chat. Version 1.2.2 dash release update. Project Spotlight, kind 0.1. That's also Mr. Pablo. Manage your Nostr identity migration using NIP41. DTAN.xyz turns over Nostr. Interesting.
I thought it was cool. It's like Pirate Bay, but nosterized, which is
That's the perfect use for Nostr. Is put all the coordination stuff in a censorship resistant place, markets, torrent, everything. Just don't put the data in Nostr, please.
Completely agree.
Right? Somebody made a file system on Nostr.
Oh, God.
Yeah, about a year ago, I think. Privacy software releases and project updates. Simplex Chat version 5.4.0. Now they link mobile and desktop together. Maybe I'll start using again. I lost my keys transitioning from one phone to another. Some UX thing sort of got me all twisted, and I didn't, because you don't need to set up an encryption key for your DB normal use. But then when you export, you do. Anyways, it was very confusing. So hopefully this will help. This project is amazing and needs to exist because, God knows how many backdoors there are on Simple. No, on, what's the name of the other one now? God, I'm so confused. Signal. All right. Do you guys use Simplex Chat? Not yet?
I tried using it.
I haven't found anyone to use it with.
It's a lot better from whatever you had before. The updates are huge, oftentimes.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. They're always like huge updates, and it's a very complex protocol. It's extremely private if you choose to use it that way. They really are like delivering on the promise. And one of the reasons why the UX is a little wonky is because of that delivery. But they do have interesting, graceful degradations on the privacy aspect of it too.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can make your experience a little bit less private and more UX friendly too.
More responsive.
Easier.
Yes.
I had huge latency issues with it. I don't know if you guys experienced that, but
no, that was not something I had issues with. Maybe if you're using over Tor, but then it's a Tor problem, right?
Yeah, I don't think I use it over Tor.
Anyways, try it out. Keep on trying. I keep on saying, like, projects like this, like, it's worth like once a month just downloading the latest and sort of like just trying a little bit to see.
I agree.
Because maybe like they got to a point that like makes you comfortable, right? Like everybody has that threshold of pain they're willing to experience with new things. So like it's worth checking in. Right. Project Spotlight, CBDC Tracker by Human Rights Foundation, GPT for All, a free-to-use, locally run, privacy-aware chatbot. Yeah, so local LLMs were not very useful.
Yeah, I'm really. I need to dig into this because they claim no GPU or internet required, but all of the like models that people want to use are big, and I think you're going to need some kind of hardware acceleration for inference.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're using a 7 billion model, sure, I mean, like, you can run that locally, but
right, but that's not what you want. Like, you can run a 7 billion parameter model on a Raspberry Pi, but it's gonna give you like one token every 3 seconds, and it's gonna be retarded.
I mean, so we're running a 33 bill at 8K.
Okay.
And we're running 70 bill at 8K. it's fast, but I'm using like, A6000s.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what you need and want. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you want to, like, the fun of the LLM stuff is to be on the cutting edge, because the cutting edge still sucks, right? So like,
Yeah.
it's like you really want to be close to that edge, because that's where it starts to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we will get to a point, probably like in a year or two, where the local models will be useful for application specific things.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be very good locally, right? So like, I don't know, like maybe you're just doing, I don't know, linting on code,
Mhm.
right? It'll be amazing at linting,
Yeah.
using like almost no memory, right?
Yeah.
But the general purpose stuff and multidisciplinary thing gets complicated. So that's literally what we're trying to do. Just do this on the cloud, but with privacy.
Mhm.
Of course, it has limits, especially if people don't want to pay for a fully segregated system. But anyways, we're playing with ideas. But yeah, it's cool to see. I just don't think we're there. All right. Boosts. Thanks everybody for streaming sats. And Vake, Bitcoin is boring and nothing is happening. It's kind of starting to become true, buddy. LN is killing here with more updates. Ape me for dear, value for value, Dubravko. I like my Canadian free and unregistered. Also fuck through though. Yes, sir. Amen. Been meaning to mention, I hope you register your podcast like all good Canadians. Yes. They can come take their own dick pic if they want. Fuck these people, man. They can't leave government soon enough. Right. Bitcoin Optech Newsletter. Now, as usual, I like to bring it up. Go read the amazing stuff that they do. It's all there. Any topics here you guys want to discuss?
I mean, maybe going back to what Roy was saying a few minutes ago, I think there was something in here from T-Best about trying to make like Bolt 12 offers friendlier and closer to like LN addresses. But
I think it's about expanding. So the way LN address works right now is that you're using basically you're using a DNS record, an A record, in order kind of to convert. No, actually, you don't need it right now. You're using a pattern. You're taking the LN URL, and through convention, you're converting it a URL that fetches the LN URL pay information. And what T-Best proposes is various ways on expanding LN URL address to support Bolt 12 and not just LN URL pay. That's kind of and there are various ways to do that with various trade-offs. The question, if a blinded path, for example, how do you integrate blinded path into? It needs to be something that is more or less static. So for one end, it's static information. On the other end, there are cases where you need to update the information. So what is the most convenient way of updating information? But I think it's very achievable and can be done. I think maybe he proposed like 3 ways of doing that. I think all of them are valid, and maybe we need to support all of them. Like, I'm not sure we need to choose only one way of integrating Bolt 12 into Lightning address. Lightning address, by the way, people think that Lightning address is LN URL pay. No, Lightning address was written in a way that is supposed to be extensible to other protocols.
Yeah, like, it's just, again, it's like it's so early, right? And and the thing is, when it's so early, I know it feels old because we're like, we live in the battle, right? We're all building stuff in Bitcoin. So it feels like a lifetime. But like, you look back at like the internet, right? I mean, like, all the specs and the standards, same for networking. It's normal. There's going to be a lot of back and forth and changes and things. I mean, look, it took like Apple 20 years now to integrate iMessage into the Google shit that's only coming next year. So like the two major phone companies can talk to each other with not using carrier SMS. It's the growing pains.
Yeah, we're on the hamster wheel. We're on the hamster wheel. Like,
that's right.
You think you're making progress, but you're always back at square one.
Yeah. And standards, it's always easy to make a proprietary standard with a consortium of companies that really want to just do things one way. You look at like NMA 2000 and EMEA 2000, right? It's like a boat networking standard, multicast, amazing. Like, it's like the first time I saw that thing, it's like, I literally couldn't believe that like boats and shit like that were literally the worst possible way of making electronics talk to each other, right? Like an absolute nightmare, right? And they were all starting to lose sales because of that, right? And then, like, this standard came about, and you can buy sensors from different players, and they all work together, and it's great, and everything just fucking works. And they even have their own Ethernet, like TCP/IP for like hubs and shit for the boats too, so you can do both. Anyways, but like, this is the thing, right? It takes like 50 years for things to go around and around, players to come and go, and then eventually you have vendors of a category that survived enough battles, seen each other in the battles. Then eventually, like, they sort of like come up with something that works for all of them because they've been around, they've seen it all, and now it's kind of like, okay, right? But there is no escaping and avoiding the battles and sort of like the growing and the learning, right? Like, you can't avoid it. It's just
but it's
just how it works.
But it's hard. It's hard.
Tell me about it.
Like I've been spending the past year in the the LST specification group, and even if everyone wants the same thing, coming to a consensus about what's important and the way to do that in a complicated environment where the parameters keep changing, it's very, very difficult. And it's also more difficult when the goal, again, the value proposition of Lightning is interoperability. So you can't avoid that. Like, you have to do a spec. Like,
at least with Bitcoin, the spec was already made. So Bitcoin's spec is a cathedral.
Yeah.
It's not a bazaar.
Yeah.
Like, people get very confused because Bitcoin is open source and is decentralized and it's voluntary, but Bitcoin is a cathedral, right? Satoshi wrote the paper, he wrote the client, and if you don't use that client, like, you're screwed.
Yeah, but not anymore.
What?
It's not a cathedral anymore. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but still, like, it's like it's like the bootstrapping of it is fully cathedral, right?
Yes.
And then everything that stems from that have to work backwards, right? So everything has to be backwards compatible to the cathedral spec, right? Or it breaks. Like, especially like in open source and stuff, there's a lot of people who hate on the cathedral model, right? Because it's not a bazaar, but the cathedral model works, right?
It works.
And it really works because it's a fucking cathedral, right?
Yeah.
The bazaar is great when you have the option of not interrupting, right? Which is fantastic, but not for everything, right? So Lightning is weird because it came already with multiplayer, right? Remember, there were 50 papers for payment channels way back, right? And they all decided to work together, and that's why we're here in this way, right? Personally, I still think that we should have had 3-4 Lightnings competing with each other, and each sort of implementation of payment channels would have had 2-3 vendors in each of them, and then you would have found the one that wins or two that wins. But anyways, that's a different sort of story. But I just find it important for people to sort of like reflect a little bit that there is a lot of efficiencies and like good things that come from the cathedral model, right? Like FreeBSD is cathedral model. It is a fantastic type of OS. It really fucking works. It's solid, right?
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir. I prefer a benevolent dictator over democracy. 100%.
Oh, for specs, yes. I don't want the dictator like controlling me after the fact, right? But like,
well, it's still better than a democracy, but that's another topic.
It's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
But but it does touch on that, right? Like, for the people who are not LARPing and just talking about shit, right? Like, for the people who are actually building, it's like oftentimes you're willing to let go of your personal preferences, right? Just because you're trying to be pragmatic and build shit.
Exactly.
Right? While the people who are LARPers, they love to just fucking argue about shit to nauseam in lists, right? Like, it's like, yeah, great. Go have fun being an academic. I'm trying to actually service users. And that's why more often than not, the bigger fish, the bigger player, the bigger install base vendor ends up winning specs.
Yes.
Is because the market will force that spec on the other players in the market, right? Because that's what everybody's going to ask to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
That happened to PSBT, right? I mean, nobody was using PSBT. We started using PSBT. A lot of people start to like PSBT. You know, it was V1 even. We had to actually rewrite because they had to fix some stuff in PSBT. And then, you know, PSBT, I think was V2, was what it should end up being deployed by everybody, right? Because that's what everybody wanted. It's okay to have the cathedral model.
Yeah, but it even doesn't work that way in Lightning. For example, take the AMP feature from Lightning Lab. So they pushed something called AMP, where it's a better way of key sending payments, and no one is implementing AMP besides Lightning Labs. That's why it's not being adopted. So it's very weird in Lightning. Like it even doesn't have to be like the major player out there. Even if you own 95% of the nodes, you need a kind of a complete consensus for something to get into the spec. Weird and hard.
Yeah.
And tough. People don't understand how tough it is.
But you know, markets have a great way of humbling players, right? Like eventually, it's just because it's so hard, but eventually what's going to happen is you're going to have the wallets that work for Zaps. And then all the people who suggest which wallet to get for you to Zap are going to do that, right? And then they're going to end up like realigning the specs towards what the market wants, right?
Yeah. The only thing that you can't argue is with the market.
That's right.
But the problem is that the market is kind of, there's no market. There's no real market right now.
I know. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why like shit is so messy. It's because not enough people use it for real world use.
Exactly.
And that's why everybody can have a say. Everybody can change shit. Everybody can break shit. In Bitcoin, nothing can break.
Mm-hmm.
My savings depends on it. So it's like, fuck you kind of thing. You know, like I'm not going to do this, right?
I agree.
You know, I'm still using, again, one address is for the store because it fucking works and I don't want to change the code, right? I just love that. I love the fact that Bitcoin was made this way, happened this way. Right. Back to the list. All right. So Lightning addresses in both 12 were proposed by TBAS. ZBD and Beamable launched joint starter kit for simple and secure Bitcoin integration for game developers. Privacy. 6 OFAC sanctioned transactions missing. Don't know much about this story. Funding. Bitcoin Design Foundation launched by Bitcoin design community to organize funding open source Bitcoin design work. I wish they spent most of their time trying to work with devs than trying to work with each other. Designers like they really struggle to work with open source because...
Well, we tried to work with them. It was a pain in the ass, to be honest.
I love the initiative. It's just that like a designer can propose whatever they want, but like you still need a developer to implement it, right? Like, and people get lost in that in between. It doesn't matter that you're right.
I think the problem is different, at least when we try to engage and they try to engage and we tried to kind of use their help. The problem is with product management, people think that design is about UI. No, design isn't about UI. It's about UX.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand, if you don't have deep understanding of the technology, and if you don't really understand the UX issues that Lightning presents, then you can't create a good design.
Yep.
And not a lot of people in the world can understand the UX problems that Lightning present and can think about new ways of interacting with Lightning, overcoming the UX challenges that Lightning presents. So by the end of the day, someone that is novice or doesn't have a lot of technical understanding on what's going on behind the scenes, the only feedback that you get is on the UI. And it's the least important feedback that you can get.
You know, it's kind of like early days of computers, right? And gaming and stuff, right? The people who designed the software were developers.
Exactly.
And then slowly you found developers who were a little bit more friendly towards the users, right? So you can't skip the steps, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Early AWS, like all the UI was very clearly built by developers. It was just like,
horrible tabs with like.
Yes. It was the best UX, by the way. It was great.
No, it was an expert-friendly tool. If you know what you're trying to build,
but it is for experts.
For sure. Like if you know what you're trying to build, it's awesome. And then at one point, that ended up not being the focus, and like now it's like much more complicated and harder.
Yes, it's literally hell.
Yeah. I think Roy knew I was about to talk about the VPC console and he left. He just got scared away. Every problem is either security groups or IAM roles. Every single problem.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that the most important role right now in our space is technical product management. There's not enough technical product management in the space. And it's not about design. It's about product management, but not just like classic product management, but technical product management.
Well, I mean, like there is understanding like what they call dev or programming. And then there is understanding like Bitcoin development. Like, it's like we always felt this pain on the hardware side, right? Because like, nobody fucking understands like the actual bytes, right? Like, all the web devs, like they understand, that they pass some shit here and there, but like they don't understand that there's a computer behind that like API, right? And then behind that computer, then there is like chips, right? That we have to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So like finding project managers or like that kind of stuff and like embedded is like, it's nearly like, it's hopeless, right? We just give up. On Bitcoin development is very similar, right? Like, like there's a lot of devs out there. How many of them have to deal with crypto primitives, right? Like have to do serialization of shit that loses money, right? Like it's a whole other bar. And then trying to find like people who can bridge the dev world to the user world, right? It's this massive like space in between of knowledge of both sides is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But you will get bridged. It's just a time thing, right? Eventually, like even the UX finds itself through the market too. Anyways, it is pretty brutal. I guess like learn to code is the only answer to designers.
Well, it's tricky. It's like learn to code, but then when you get that itch to go and start to implement your own cryptography, like stop.
Don't.
Like learn to code and then stop.
That's where you stop.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully there's BDK too, right? BDK sort of solves a lot of that problem. Like, don't go there. As soon as you are 2 BDKs back, stop there. But you should know.
I think I would add, in addition to learn to code, it's not about coding. It's about understanding
That's right.
technologies. It's about understanding architecture. It's about understanding software.
Yeah, but if you don't implement something, you're never going to learn, right? It's like, I'm a shitty fucking dev.
Of course. But you need to be a dev in order to be an architect. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And in order to do UX of things, you need to understand how the thing works.
Exactly.
One of the things that's tricky is I've found that, for the really, really good technical PMs that I've met, like 90% of the times, if they're a really good technical PM, their background is that they used to be a dev. Like they were a dev and then they move into being a PM. Every once in a while, like 10% of the time, I'll meet somebody whose background is like business or finance, but they're just like, somehow they have a talent for it. But it's tricky because like a lot of devs, they'll try out being a PM and they end up being like a glorified Jira jockey and they just say like, no, fuck this. I want to go back to fighting with the borrow checker. Like, I don't want to do this. Yeah.
Flip the table. Yeah. All right. Sparrow new grantee, Zero Sync. That's a good one. I'm really looking forward to this project. Here's the cool thing. Okay. If Zero Sync works the way is promised,
yeah,
we could have UTXO information inside the hardware wallet. Like enough to be able to construct the transactions in the hardware wallet.
That would be cool.
That like you could deprecate clients. Like be huge for security. Huge.
So would that be like I've got the hardware wallet and I send like a Zero Sync proof and the UTXO set over SD card or whatever into the hardware wallet, and then now you have enough to actually build the transaction.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
That'd be yeah.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Yes. It really is like massive, like massive. So like we had this project we wanted to work on, which was essentially like air gap level DB deltas. Okay. Yeah. So essentially I wanted to have a node that is actually offline, like air gapped node, right? Because you really want that full stack for the transaction to be fully cold, right?
Yeah.
And my idea was Peter's, like you do the delta of the level DB and you somehow have a little protocol that you bring over probably via SneakerNet, right? The problem is like it's a lot of data. It's kind of convoluted, not great.
Mhm.
Like this, boom, problem solved. Cryptography fixes everything, right? Like,
Mhm.
so with this, you have the trust that you're signing the things that have to be signed. You can check transactions. Like it really is cool. Like I think the future is bright on that, because I think what we're going to end up having is two devices. You're going to have a transaction coordinator and you're going to have a transaction signer.
Yeah.
This is for a lot of money, right? I'm not talking about like your phone wallet sort of money, right?
Sure.
Because right now it's very hard to trust even the software you're downloading, right? So for example, your Sparrow or Electrum,
Mhm.
like you kind of need to audit every version update that you download, because, and then like you build from source, but now you're also double check. Like, it's like a nightmare, right? When you're signing big amounts. So essentially what you do is you just don't update the software that you have on an old machine, right?
Mhm.
Last known working version that didn't rob me. So, but if you have cold transaction coordinators, like the level of security you get for free is so high. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I mean, every time I've thought about zero sync and UTXO, the thing I've been aiming towards is, a fully validating Bitcoin node on every iPhone, right? It's like you download this app from the App Store, you download a couple megabytes, and like
Not even.
you don't need light clients anymore. Like you've got a node. But I never thought of actually shipping that data across the air gap into a hardware wallet. That's really cool. That's a slick idea.
Can you imagine like your little code card queue there with a bigger screen, and you're like scrolling down your TXOs, freezing some, not freezing some, and then you go like, okay, send money. Like we just improved things greatly, because remember, right? The hammer is going to come, okay? Like custodial wallets are going to end up getting kicked out. Sorry, non-custodial wallets are going to end up getting kicked out of all the stores eventually, right? In one timeline.
Mhm.
Very, very likely timeline, right? Say 30% chance that like all of them are removed. And then like you're now back to computers only, right? Which is fine. It's fine for us. But like, like 80% of the world won't have computers because they have phones only, right?
Yeah.
So like we need a way of bringing the data in a way that we trust the data. It's going to be cool. Future is bright.
PWAs fix this.
See, like my biggest issue with PWA is, one is, for example, it's not available on my phone right now, right? Because I'm in lockdown mode at all times.
Mm.
And to change that, I have to go back in, unlock it. I need to make it exempt that site. Now that's a security hole, and then relock it, right? What I really need is for browsers to support proper signing of the PWA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that like I have a proof that the PWA that's coming is really from Ben.
Yeah.
Even if their server's compromised or something, I have a way of checking the signature. And that like shit's gonna get really awesome. Like then it's like, okay, great. I can trust the browser. Well, trust the browser. I can have some respect for the browser attempt to be trusted. And then like it gets really, really interesting, right? But again, for the low amount of money, PWAs are amazing, right? Like if you're in a country like China that's trying to block a bunch of apps, fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
I don't know if you've done a Bitcoin review with Robin Linus yet, but you should get him on to talk about zero sync. That'd be a cool episode.
that could be cool. Yeah, why don't we do that?
Yeah.
You should be on it. All right. Yeah, Johnny, in the sky, if you're listening, maybe we should book a zero link episode. Maybe we make it about zero link and U3XO.
Yeah.
And there was one more. I forgot the name. For sign block stuff.
I mean, we could also like, James, finally got Assume UTXO
right
merged. So maybe like get the three of them together to talk about,
Yeah, because Assume is the first step, U3XO is the next step, and then zero link is the final step. That got me thinking, because I was like, hey, how do you do a check all the way back to Genesis block 3,000 years from now?
Right.
It's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So, and you can't trust it if you don't. So, zero link really is kind of like the only way, or at least U3XO. Anyways, business and finance, not going to go through here. Too much stuff. And we're essentially at 2 hours and 20 minutes. Many guys have survived without, nobody had to go pee.
I fell asleep a couple times, but
Yeah, I mean, we try. Okay, I guess that's it. So lots of reads that are cool. Go check out the notes. There is a wonderful post by Roy as well there on the bottom. And we have lots of links and cool shit on the notes. Go try everything. Go give Bitcoin Company your sats. And thank you so much, guys, for coming. Final thoughts, Ben.
I don't know. Stuff's always moving. Bullish.
Okay, Mr. Roy.
I agree with Ben. I agree with you. I think that takes time. The market will decide. We need to focus on the fundamentals and keep building.
That's a good one. Mr. Rijndael.
Nothing's happening in Bitcoin. And if we change it, we'll break it. Everything's happening in Lightning. And if we don't change it, we'll break it. Super bullish.
Nice.
And because nobody listens to this pod all the way to the end, I should start saying a brain wallet at the end and see if somebody picks it up.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because people claim they listen all the way to the end, right?
At the end of every episode, just say like 12 seed words and see if it gets swept.
That's right.
Bacon.
Yeah.
And the right way of doing this is you don't give a real one, you make a fake one, and then people keep on trying to get it, and they don't. That would be kind of hilarious. Anyways. All right, guys. Thank you so much. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for putting in 2 hours and 20 minutes. It's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it.
Thank you, Enrique.
Thanks for listening. For more resources, check the show notes. We put a lot of effort into them. And remember, we don't have a crystal ball, so let us know about your project. Visit bitcoin.review to find out how to get in touch.